Say you bamboozled your employees into playing D&D with you and now you're holding them hostage in a conference room after hours. You've confiscated their phones so they can't call for help, and you're on the verge of telling them, "Follow my plans or else you're fired!" Hello, my fellow adventurers in agility. Last week we talked about tactician type players, how they're great to have but also sometimes problematic. A lot of resources floating around online talk about how these tacticians ruin tables and how to deal with them. A frustrated DM even went so far as to ask, how can I make these players stop nagging other players when they do not follow their plans? How can I make them feel less frustrated when other players don't follow their advice? And how can I stop them from planning when it's not necessary to go super granular? The advice ranges from let them be tacticians and enjoy it to put a time limit on their moves to kick them out of your game. At best, these techniques will just put a plaster on the symptoms. What about resources for how to be a better tactician overall? We started building this toolbox last video when we covered how good tacticians are good leaders, and good leaders come up with good plans and generate player buy-in. I shared a technique for how tacticians can build a strong foundation for their plans. Now, it's time to look at how the tactician can get the rest of the table on board. Why do you need buy-in? In JJ Redick's introductory press conference, as the new head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, he said that even if he had a vision for how to best use a player, if the player hasn't bought in, then the plans don't really matter. Now, why am I referencing an incoming NBA head coach in a video about Dungeons & Dragons? It's because if you want to be an effective tactician, I believe you have to put on your coaching hat. And a good coach is what the industry calls a servant leader. What's a servant leader? It's in the name. It's a leader that serves their teammates first, rather than stands above them. Essentially what most of our politicians should be rather than what they are. Now take note that the following involves work not just in-game but also outside the table. A servant leader spends the time to get to know the people around them because they genuinely care. They create a space of psychological safety. Why? Because they realize that they can't accomplish everything by themselves. The more they empower their teammates, the better results they will get. So let me talk directly to you, tactician friends out there. As a tactician, you work with the team you have and help it become the best it can be. You don't force the players around you to be someone they're not, or do something when they are unable or unwilling. You don't berate your DM for not being as flexible as Matt Mercer. You don't cuss out your teammate for not being as tactical as Travis Willingham, because you yourself are definitely not Emily Axford. Unless you are, in which case, hi Emily, thanks for watching, ooh woo! Instead, you use what you learned from doing your sailboat exercise to tailor how you will help your teammates improve without being an asshole. A tactician who builds the table up rather than tears people down is a tactician who gets to stay. Second tip, make sure the objective is clear to everyone. When you feel your tactician tendencies kicking in, make sure you start by verifying that everyone is on the same page regarding the big picture. Does everyone know what the pressing objective is? If they don't, then good luck getting a good result. This is where sharing your tactical insights would be helpful. For example, instead of telling the bard to cast Hypnotic Pattern, the wizard to cast Wall of Force, and then the fighter to focus fire on the boss with all of their Battle Master maneuvers, you tell them the big picture. Hey, we're outnumbered. I think we need to split the fight so we don't get swarmed and then focus on the biggest threat. That's it. Since you spent all of that time in and out of game serving your teammates, building them up, boosting their confidence, you can trust them to do what they think is best to succeed. A tactician who does not micromanage does not appear on RPG horror stories. Tip number 3 for getting buy-in. Involve the team in decision making. A true tactician wants to win with a good plan, and good plans can also come from anywhere, even their teammates. So ask your party for their opinions and be open to their ideas. yes and their ideas rather than shutting them down. If people feel they helped make the plan, they'll feel more ownership and less resentment. If they have a great idea, be willing to adjust or throw away your own plan. Your goal is to win, not to have your own plan adopted, right? Give suggestions when asked. Ask questions instead of giving commands unprompted. You are not their boss. But even if you were, say you bamboozled your employees into playing D&D with you and now you're holding them hostage in a conference room after hours. You've confiscated their phones so they can't call for help, and you're on the verge of telling them, "Follow my plans or else you're fired!" A. Let them go. That's a felony. And B. Remember that only unskilled leaders need to rely on the boss card to influence their teammates. A tactician who makes the party feel they came up with the plan is a tactician who gets that plan done. Fourth tip is all about controlling the spotlight. When things go well with your plans, put the spotlight on your teammates. Applaud them for doing well. Tell them how cool they are, how clutch their moves were. Highlight their creativity, especially if they did something that was unplanned but effective. Better yet, boost them. Help them succeed rather than taking the glory yourself. But what about when your plans go to shit? That's the time when you put the spotlight on yourself. Acknowledge things you could have done better and own the outcome. How many of you know so-called leaders who do the exact opposite? They claim credit for everything good that happens and blame everyone else for their failures. Nobody likes working with a person like that. A grateful tactician is a welcome tactician. Inevitably, disagreements will happen. What do you do if the group can't seem to agree? What if you can't get the perfect consensus? Before you look at the following bonus tips, you have to keep in mind that you came together to play, not to argue and plan. I went to bat for you in the last video. You're supposed to be the force for motion in the game. But there may be times when your tendency to push your plans and your ideas may in fact prevent you from playing the game instead of moving things along. If you spend too much time trying to persuade people, your game bogs down. Your DM gets pissed. Your teammates get frustrated, or much worse, bored. And later on, you'll see a video where Crit Crab calls you that guy. So when you have a lack of consensus, follow this flowchart. Ask yourself, is this decision really important to you? If the answer is no, go to disagree and commit. If the answer is yes, try to persuade. Did they get persuaded? If the answer is yes, cool, game is moving. If the answer is no, go to disagree and commit. So, bonus tip number 1. Know when to fight your battles. Imagine your fellow players like different banks and you've opened an account with each of them. Every time you build them up, see the servant leadership and spotlight control, you make a deposit. Every time you ask them to follow you or you do something annoying to them, you make a withdrawal. So if you argue about every little thing, you'll soon find your bank accounts overdrawn, your credit score will be shot to hell, and you won't be allowed to do business with them anymore. Or any of their other bank friends for that matter. So the first step when your tactician tendencies kick in is to ask yourself, is this really important to me? Am I willing to make a withdrawal? Do I have enough money in the bank? If the answer is yes, you can try to persuade them over to your side. Fortunately or unfortunately, you can't just roll a d20 to persuade someone to go along with your plans in real life. This is where bonus tip number 2 comes in. It's easier to persuade someone if you could align your plans or recommendations with their motivations. You're dealing with people in a game of make-believe, so even if you feel like you have the most rational, logical, tactically sound strategy, their feelings don't care about your facts. No. If you want to get what you want, you connect with your teammates on a personal level and show them how your way serves them. You have 2 levels where you can operate, in and out of game. What do they enjoy? What are their PC's goals and motivations? On the flip side, what do they not want to happen? What are their non-negotiables? Fortunately for you, you already watched the previous video and did the sailboat exercise, right? You should have a good idea of these by now. Just remember, the longer you try to do this, the more money you withdraw from your bank account. Pay attention to your account balance. If after your persuasion check you still can't build consensus, or the decision is just not that important to you, here's bonus tip number 3, disagree and commit. This means that for the sake of playing, and remember, playing is what you came there to do, you acknowledge that there are objections, but everyone commits to one plan anyway, and doing their best to make it succeed. So if most of your team comes up with a plan and there's a straggler, do your best to foster a disagree and commit attitude. How? Make sure their objections are heard and taken seriously. Make sure that the majority will take accountability for the decision. If the plan goes to shit, make sure they are not blamed and make sure the group learns from it. The best way is to walk the talk. If you are the one in the minority, go with the plan and still do your best. Give it your all. Don't sabotage it. The more you show you're a disagree and commit guy to them, the more they will be willing to do the same for you. While these tips are widely used, they can't guarantee 100% effectiveness in the industry, so don't expect them to be 100% effective at your tables. Sometimes, people and personalities just don't fit, and that's okay. What do you think? Would these tips improve your experience as a tactician or when playing with one? Let me know in the comments and let's discuss. Again, please send this to the tacticians that you love, and more so to the tacticians that you don't. Whew! It makes my heart so very, very glad that thousands of people watched my last video about how tacticians can be a force for good. It's honestly a little overwhelming. I'm also very grateful, especially to the many people who chose to leave their comments and their insights. I was just a man screaming into the void, and in it I found a whole bunch of awesome people who proved that tacticians are awesome. If you stick around, I'm planning to make more videos from both the player and DM perspectives, where I hope my experiences and techniques in agile project management could help make gaming more fun for everyone at the table. Hey, I'm Jarek, a dungeon master with a hobby in agile project management. What other player types have given your tables a tough time? Tell us the story in the comments and let's see if an agile perspective could help. If you liked what I brought, please like the video. Appreciate it if you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll know when I drop the next one. Until next time, my fellow adventurers in agility, bye!